Here's Family Research Council President Tony Perkins.
Welcome to Washington Watch, friends. My name is Joseph Backholm, and I'm sitting in for Tony today. My pleasure to be with you. The website is tonyperkins.com. Before we get on with the show today, I want to remind everyone that there are primary elections tomorrow. Continues to be primary election season, and your vote means more than ever during primaries because so few people vote, which means your vote is worth more. So tomorrow in Connecticut, Minnesota, Vermont, and Wisconsin, if you live there, make plans to fill out your ballot. If you need help, if you need a voter guide, go to ivoterguide.com. That's what we recommend to get great voter information to make sure that you can vote in a way that is consistent with what you believe. Today on the program, we'll get an update from the ground in Israel. A ceasefire has been called after 3 days of violence. What caused the latest skirmish? And we'll talk about that. Last week, the Biden administration was threatening to defund a school feeding program because it was being run by a Christian school. Are they changing their mind? We'll tell you more about that story as well. And finally, a new report suggests that all the wokeness in America's high school and elementary schools is part of a larger plan being executed in our universities. We'll talk to the author of this report coming up later today. But our headlines for today. With the Senate voting along party lines and Vice President Kamala Harris casting the deciding vote, the ironically named Inflation Reduction Act passed in the Senate on Sunday afternoon. The Democrat-controlled House is scheduled to take up the legislation on Friday, with the bills passing expected soon after that. So what does this mean for the average American family? Joining me now to discuss it, as well as his own legislation to prevent federal funding for abortion travel, is Congressman Buddy Carter. He serves on the House Budget Committee and the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, and he represents Georgia's 1st District. Congressman Carter, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you today. What was your reaction to the news of the passage of the reconciliation bill over the weekend?
Well, quite honestly, I was not surprised. I am disappointed. I tell people all the time that I don't really get surprised anymore, but I still get disappointed, and I'm disappointed in this. Listen, they refer to this as the Inflation Deceleration Act. I refer to it as the Inflation Acceleration Act, because this is the worst thing that we can do. This is throwing fuel on the fire. This is, you cannot spin your way out of inflation. It does not work. Raising taxes, even Barack Obama said that you cannot raise taxes during a recession. And we are in a recession. I don't care how the White House spins it. I don't care how they define it. We are in a recession. I'm in the district now. I have been last week and this week. And I will tell you, people are hurting. They're hurting, and they understand that we're in a recession. We've got to stop this spending. We've got to stop putting more money into the economy. Do no harm. That's the key here. We've got to stop the spending. We've got to unleash our energy independence and our energy power-s, and we've got to do something about the regulatory environment. That's the way we're going to get out of this recession, not by putting more money into this, not by raising taxes. And this is going to raise taxes on everyone. Don't for 1 minute think it's just people making over $400,000 a year.
Now, Congressman Carter, you have some perhaps strange bedfellows in your belief that this legislation is not going to reduce inflation. Senator Bernie Sanders, who I know you probably don't agree with on much, he had this to say during the debate over the weekend. Let's play clip 3.
I want to take a moment to say a few words about the so-called Inflation Reduction Act that we are debating this evening. And I say so-called, by the way, because according to the CBO and other economic organizations who have studied this bill, it will in fact have a minimal impact on inflation.
So, Congressman Carter, you think it's not going to help inflation. Senator Sanders doesn't think it's going to help inflation. Polling over the weekend showed that only 12% of Americans think it will reduce inflation. So why are we calling this the Inflation Reduction Act?
I'm not. I'm calling it the Inflation Acceleration Act because that's what it's going to do. Again, you cannot spin your way out of inflation, and that's what they want to do. It's simply ridiculous what they're trying to do here. And oh, by the way, I would certainly be remiss if I did not mention, since I am a pharmacist, that the prescription drug part of this is the worst thing we could possibly be and therefore kill innovation. You know, I've practiced pharmacy for over 40 years, and I've seen nothing short of miracles as a result of research and development. And now what they're trying to do, this is going to end all that at a time when we can least afford to do that. We need more cures. We need cures for Alzheimer's, for all kind of different diseases that are out there now that are going to challenge us now and in the future.
Yeah. Congressman Carter, you did briefly cut out, and it's the wonders of the internet. And so I think we lost a key point that you made there. But I believe what you were saying is that this new legislation is going to cap the amount of money that will be able to be used for R&D and the pharmacy companies can receive in reimbursement for their drugs, which you believe is going to disincentivize innovation. Is that your point?
Yes, that is my point exactly. This is going to kill research and development. And that's the last thing we need in this country right now. Not only that, but it's actually going to increase prescription prices because the launch price now is going to be higher than it has been in the past. These drug companies understand what's going on here. They're simply going to raise the launch price because they know they're not going to be able to raise the price later on.
Right. Congressman Carter, in your judgment, who wins from this? Clearly, this is a political environment. There are people who want this to pass. It's questionable whether the American public wants this to pass, but there are people who want this to pass. From just a purely political perspective, who benefits from this passing?
This is a Hail Mary by the Democrats. This is one of their last opportunities to try and salvage midterm elections, but it's not going to work. The American people are not stupid. When would they learn that? When would the Democrats learn that? This is going to hurt us in the long term, and people understand that.
I think you might be right, because the last several years, last couple of years in particular, has just been a lesson in how to create inflation. We know there have been supply shortages of all sorts of goods. In the meantime, the government has just been pumping money into the economy, partly to deal with COVID, partly just for the political benefits, I think, from that. But the outcome of that has been exactly what we were seeing, record high inflations. But it does seem counterintuitive that we just continue more of that, continuing to pump more money from the government into the economy when the supply of goods is not there to balance that out. And inevitably, that's what the economy, that's what all the economic principles tell us, is we are going to see inflation. But Representative Carter, there's another element of this, because so much of this money is going to the IRS to pay for 87,000 new agents, I understand. Senator Ben Cardin was asked about this. Here's what he had to say.
230 economists wrote letters to Congress saying that the Inflation Reduction Act would actually add to inflation. Penn Wharton's budget model said.
Do you understand how 87,000 new IRS agents would scare the heck out of millions of Americans?
Well, millions of Americans aren't going to be impacted by that other than getting better service from the IRS. There's no reason to be fearful. And if you have paid your taxes and if you comply with our laws, you should want to make sure everyone else does that.
Congressman Carter, any reason for Americans to be fearful of 87,000 new IRS agents?
Anytime the federal government comes to your door, you should be fearful. Let's make sure we understand that, particularly if they're from the IRS. Of course, this is nothing more than to try to recoup more money. And that's exactly what they're going to be doing. This is going to be a boom for CPAs, but it is going to hurt Americans. That's why I say, to think that taxes are going to go up only on those making over $400,000 a year, wrong. This is going to hurt everyone.
Very quickly, this bill is coming from the Senate over to you and your colleagues in the House. What do you expect to happen there?
I suspect it'll be along party lines. I don't know that we'll have anyone in the Republican Party. We may have a couple who vote for it, but I'm sure that the Speaker, who admittedly does a good job in counting votes, I'm sure she'll have the votes to get it passed.
I want to switch topics on you in our remaining moments here. News in the last couple of weeks, because President Biden, his executive order requiring the federal government to reimburse travel expenses for those who want to travel across state lines to get abortions. You've responded with some legislation. Tell us about that.
It is the Defunding Abortion Transportation Act. And what it does is to make sure that no taxpayers' money are used for people to be able to travel to get an abortion. It's a common sense bill. I co-sponsored it along with the chair of our conference, Elise Stefanik from New York. And it says it does exactly what it should do. And that is to make sure that taxpayers' money is not used to help anyone travel to get an abortion. That's not what we're supposed to be doing in this country, and that should not be done. And this is what it will do, is to prohibit it.
Now, Congressman Carter, we all know about the long-standing debate over the Hyde Amendment. And this is something that even President Biden, when he was Representative, then Senator Biden for decades, literally was a strong defender of the Hyde Amendment. He abandoned that support of the Hyde Amendment in order to win the Democratic nomination to the White House, and he has done so, of course. But the principle of the Hyde Amendment is we can't use federal dollars to fund abortion. Now, in this case, it's not his executive order doesn't say, oh, we're going to pay for abortion. It says we're going to pay for transportation so that people can go get abortions. Is there any sense in which this executive order itself might be a violation of the Hyde Amendment?
I certainly think it is. There's no question in my mind it is a violation of the Hyde Amendment, and the intent of the Hyde Amendment and the spirit of the Hyde Amendment is that no taxpayers' money will be used for abortion. Well, this is to help with transportation for abortion. Therefore, it is abortion. Now, look, everyone has the right to interstate travel. Nobody questions that. But you do not have the right to use taxpayers' funds to travel to get an abortion.
Is this purely a political move? Is there any practical benefit from having the federal government say that we're going to pay for people's abortions? Is there precedent for something like that, paying for travel?
Yeah, there is monies out there to help people, non-emergency medical transport, people who are on dialysis. But no, there is not a precedent for allowing taxpayers' money to be used for the purpose of abortion, of traveling to get an abortion or anything of that sense. And this is just the president and the administration, again, trying to protest the decision by the Supreme Court of Roe versus Wade, which obviously I applaud. And now it goes back to the states, and the states will make that decision on a state-by-state basis.
Representative Carter, one more question. I want to go back to the reconciliation bill again. We've got about a minute left. The money that is being spent here, is this being borrowed? Is it being printed? Where is this? Is it just tax increases? Where is it coming from?
Well, a lot of it will be the 87,000 IRS agents that are going to be added. Now they want to come in and try to get blood out of a turnip. And that's going to be some of it. But yes, there are tax increases in there on corporations. And, again, even Barack Obama said you do not go up on taxes during a recession. But this administration, the Biden administration, they are tone deaf. They do not understand. They don't understand, again, that you cannot spend your way out of inflation. It cannot be done. This is going to raise taxes. It's going to raise taxes across the board, whether you make $400,000 or less than $400,000. It will raise taxes. And yes, I'm sure it's going to increase our debt, which we can ill afford to do at this point.
Congressman Carter, we are out of time, but thank you so much for your time today. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you.